The medication cart was heavier than usual, or maybe Claire Foster was just more exhausted than she wanted to admit. She'd pulled a double shift at Mercy General Hospital. 16 hours of back-to-back patient care, charting, and the endless demands of a busy cardiac unit. Her feet ached, her head throbbed, and the fluorescent light seemed unusually bright, making her vision swim slightly. "Claire, you okay?" her colleague Jessica asked, passing by with a tray of supplies. "You look pale." "I'm fine," Claire said automatically. The lie so practiced, it came without thought. "Just tired, I'll grab coffee after this round." But as Claire pushed the cart toward room 437, the hallway tilted sideways. She gripped the cart handle, trying to steady herself, but her legs had turned to water. The last thing she registered was Jessica's alarmed shout and the floor rushing up to meet her when awareness returned. Seconds or minutes later, she couldn't tell. Claire found herself on the floor with several people hovering over her. Someone had elevated her legs. Someone else was checking her pulse, and a deep, authoritative voice was giving commands. "Get her to exam 3. I want a full workup. CBC, metabolic panel, EKG, and someone find her employee file. I need her medical history and emergency contacts." Claire's eyes focused on the man speaking. Dr. Ethan Cross, Chief of Surgery, arguably the most respected and intimidating physician at Mercy General. He was in his early 40s, with dark hair graying at the temples and steel-blue eyes that missed nothing. Claire had admired him from a distance for the 2 years she'd worked here, but they'd never directly interacted. Cardiac nurses and surgical chiefs existed in different orbits. "Dr. Cross, I'm fine," Claire tried to say, but her voice came out weak and unconvincing. "You just collapsed in the middle of a shift, Nurse Foster. You're not fine." Ethan's tone was professional but firm as he helped transfer her to a wheelchair. "And you're going to let us figure out why." 20 minutes later, Claire found herself in an exam room wearing a hospital gown, an IV in her arm, and electrodes attached to her chest for the EKG. The humiliation of being on the other side of patient care was almost worse than whatever had caused her to faint. Jessica appeared with a clipboard. "Hey, they need you to verify your information for the emergency workup. Just standard stuff." She held out the forms, and Claire's stomach dropped. The forms required legal name, social security number, date of birth, information that would access her personnel file. Information that would reveal— "I can fill that out later," Claire said quickly, trying to sit up. "I really need to get back to my shift." "You're not going anywhere," Ethan said, entering the exam room with her employee file in hand. His expression was professionally neutral, but something in his eyes made Claire's heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with her medical condition. "Your blood pressure is dangerously low, you're dehydrated, and according to your supervisor, you've been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight, so we're running tests, you're getting fluids, and you're not leaving until I'm satisfied you're stable." He opened her file, and Claire watched in growing panic as his eyes scanned the first page, then stopped. His brow furrowed slightly as he flipped to the second page, then back to the first. "There's a discrepancy here," Ethan said slowly, looking up at her. "Your employment file lists you as Claire Foster, social security number ending in 4827, but your emergency contact information, which was sealed until now, shows a different name entirely." His voice dropped lower. "Vivian Elizabeth Ashford, and according to this, Vivian Ashford died 3 years ago." The room went silent, except for the beeping of the heart monitor, which was now racing, betraying Claire's panic. "I can explain," Claire whispered, though she had no idea how to explain any of this. "I think you'd better," Ethan replied. He turned to Jessica, who was still hovering near the door, eyes wide with confusion. "Jessica, I need the room, and this conversation is protected by physician-patient confidentiality. Understood?" Jessica nodded and left quickly, closing the door behind her. Ethan pulled up a stool and sat, his gaze never leaving Claire's face. "So Claire Foster, who is apparently Vivian Ashford, who is apparently dead, want to tell me what's going on?" Claire closed her eyes, feeling 3 years of carefully constructed lies crumbling around her. "How much do you know about the Ashford family?" "The Boston Ashfords." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "The pharmaceutical dynasty. That Ashford family. That would be them," Claire said bitterly. "Vivian Ashford is, the only daughter of Richard and Catherine Ashford, heiress to a fortune worth approximately $3 billion. And 3 years ago, She supposedly died in a boating accident off Cape Cod. Except she didn't, Ethan said slowly, understanding dawning. She faked her death and became a cardiac nurse in Seattle. It was the only way out, Claire whispered. My parents had arranged a marriage to Vincent Russo. Do you know that name? Ethan's expression darkened. Russo crime family, East Coast organized crime. My father owed them money, gambling debts that had spiraled into millions. Vincent Russo offered to clear the debt in exchange for marrying me, a way to legitimize his family's reputation through connection to the Ashfords. Claire's voice shook. I was 25 years old, and my parents sold me to a criminal to save themselves from financial ruin. So you ran, Ethan said. Not a question, but an acknowledgement. I tried to run multiple times, but Vincent had people watching me constantly. My parents' estate was essentially a prison. Then my friend, my only real friend, helped me. Claire's eyes burned with unshed tears. She was a nurse. She taught me enough to pass basic certifications, helped me create a new identity, and staged the boating accident. My parents held a funeral. Vincent moved on to other business ventures, and Vivian Ashford ceased to exist. Except she didn't, Ethan repeated. She became Claire Foster and spent 3 years working as a nurse. Why, with your family's resources, you could have disappeared to Europe, South America, anywhere with enough money to never work again. Because Vivian's money wasn't mine. It was my parents', Claire explained. Everything was in trusts I couldn't access without their approval, and more importantly because I wanted to be someone else. Someone who earned her place through skill and effort, not birthright. Someone who mattered because of what she could do, not who her family was. Her voice broke. I wanted to be useful, real, not just a decorative piece in someone else's power play. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. That's why you work so hard, why you take extra shifts, why you're always volunteering for the difficult patients. You're trying to prove something. I'm trying to be someone worth being, Claire corrected quietly. And if someone discovered the truth, Ethan asked, if your family found out you were alive, Vincent Russo. Then Claire Foster disappears and I start over somewhere else, Claire said. But even as she spoke the words, she felt how tired she was, how exhausted from constantly running, constantly hiding, constantly being someone else. That's why I collapsed. I haven't been sleeping. Every time I close my eyes, I see Vincent finding me, dragging me back, finishing what my parents started. How long since you've slept properly? Ethan asked, his professional concern overriding the shock of her revelation. I don't know. A few weeks, maybe longer. Claire pulled at the IV line absently. I keep working because when I'm working, I'm too busy to be scared. But then I go home to my empty apartment and every sound is Vincent coming for me. Every shadow is one of his people. Every stranger on the street could be someone who recognizes me from the society photos that used to run in magazines. You're having a breakdown, Ethan said gently. Physical and psychological. Your body literally gave out from exhaustion and stress. I know, Claire whispered, but I don't know how to stop if I slow down, if I let my guard down for even a second. You're safe here, Ethan interrupted. Right now, in this moment, you're safe, so I need you to let me help you. Starting with getting you admitted for observation and rest. I can't be admitted, Claire protested. Hospital admissions are public record if someone's looking for me. I can admit you under a psychiatric hold, Ethan said. Those records are sealed. Legally, no one can access them without a court order. You'd be Jane Doe in the system, completely anonymous. Claire stared at him. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. I've been lying to everyone here for 2 years. I could be exactly the spoiled heiress running from responsibility that my family probably told everyone I was. Are you? Ethan asked. What? Are you a spoiled heiress running from responsibility? Because the woman I've observed for 2 years, the nurse who stays late to hold patients' hands, who advocates fiercely for better care protocols, who teaches new staff with patience and skill, that woman doesn't seem spoiled or irresponsible. She seems dedicated and compassionate and brave enough to walk away from billions of dollars to live authentically. Claire felt tears spilling over. You barely know me. I know enough, Ethan replied. I know you're an excellent nurse who's earned the respect of everyone on this staff. I know you just trusted me with a secret that could destroy the life you've built. And I know you're exhausted and scared and need help whether you want to admit it or not. He stood, making notes in her chart. So here's what's going to happen. I'm admitting you for severe exhaustion and dehydration under sealed psychiatric protocols. You're going to spend the next 48 hours sleeping, eating and letting your body recover, and we're going to figure out how to make sure you can live without constantly looking over your shoulder. Ethan. Claire used his first name without thinking, and he looked up, something warming in his expression. Why are you helping me? This could compromise you. The hospital, everything. If my family or Vincent found out you knew and didn't report— Report what? Ethan interrupted. That a woman changed her name and started a new life. That's not illegal. Faking your death might be, technically, but you'd have to prove intent to defraud, and since you didn't collect life insurance or inherit anything, there's no fraud. You're allowed to walk away from your life, Vivian. Claire. You're allowed to choose who you want to be, even if that choice means lying to everyone. You didn't lie about what matters, Ethan said. You didn't lie about your skills, your dedication, your character. You just protected yourself from people who would use your real identity against you. There's a difference. Claire wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that the secret she'd guarded for 3 years wasn't as catastrophic as she'd feared. What if this comes back on you? What if— Let me worry about that, Ethan said firmly. Right now, you need to worry about recovering. Everything else we'll handle together, okay? Together, Claire repeated, the word foreign and frightening and somehow comforting. She'd been alone for so long that the concept of together felt like a language she'd forgotten. Together, Ethan confirmed. Now I'm going to have a private room prepared. Top floor, restricted access, registered under psychiatric hold protocols. Only staff with explicit authorization can enter. You'll have privacy, security, and time to rest without fear. As Ethan moved toward the door, Claire called out, Ethan, thank you for believing me, for helping me, for not— Her voice broke. For not treating me like I'm crazy or criminal. Ethan turned back, and the look in his eyes was something Claire couldn't quite identify. Compassion, yes. Professional concern. But underneath was something deeper, more personal. You're not crazy, Claire. You're surviving. There's a difference. He paused at the door. And for what it's worth, Claire Foster is a far more impressive person than Vivian Ashford ever was. The woman who walked away from billions to be a nurse, who works herself to exhaustion caring for others, who had the courage to choose authenticity over comfort. That woman is remarkable, don't ever forget that. After he left, Claire lay back on the exam table, feeling the weight of 3 years of secrets finally shared. It should have terrified her, this exposure. Instead, she felt something unexpected. Relief. And underneath the relief, something even more dangerous. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to keep running. That maybe someone saw her, really saw Claire, not Vivian, and chose to stand beside her anyway. It was a fragile hope, easily shattered. But lying there in the fluorescent brightness of the exam room, IV fluids slowly rehydrating her exhausted body, Claire let herself hold on to it just for a moment, just long enough to remember what it felt like to not be completely alone. The private room on the 8th floor was nothing like the standard hospital accommodations. It had a real window with a view of the Seattle skyline, a comfortable chair that actually reclined, and most importantly, a door that locked from the inside. Ethan had personally escorted Claire up via the staff elevator, avoiding the main corridors where colleagues might ask questions. The nursing staff assigned to this floor are discreet and experienced with sensitive cases, Ethan explained as he helped her settle into the bed. Your chart lists you as Jane Doe. Psychiatric hold for acute exhaustion and anxiety. Only 3 people know your real situation. Me, the charge nurse Margaret, and hospital administration, who I briefed under confidentiality protocols. You told administration, Claire's anxiety spiked. I told them we have a staff member in protective custody due to a domestic threat, Ethan clarified. They don't know details, they just know you need privacy and security, which they're legally obligated to provide. Claire relaxed slightly. You've thought of everything. I've been thinking about it since I read your file, Ethan admitted, pulling up the bedside chair. Claire, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Is there any immediate danger? Any reason to believe Vincent Russo or your family knows you're in Seattle? Claire considered the question carefully. I don't think so. I've been careful. No social media. No contact with anyone from my old life except one text to my friend Sarah every 6 months to let her know I'm alive. I change my appearance regularly. Never go to places the old Vivian would have frequented. As far as I know, I'm still dead to them. But you're not sure, Ethan pressed. How can I be sure? Claire's voice rose slightly. Vincent Russo has resources I can't even imagine if he wanted to find me. If he decided it was worth the effort. She stopped, forcing herself to breathe. I've been paranoid for 3 years, Ethan. Every stranger could be a threat. Every coincidence could be surveillance. I don't trust my own judgment anymore. Ethan was quiet for a moment, then reached out and took her hand. The gesture was professional but warm, grounding. Then trust mine. My judgment says you're safe right now in this moment, so let yourself rest. Doctor's orders. Claire wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like a physical weight. When was the last time she'd actually felt safe enough to sleep deeply? Will you stay just until I fall asleep? I'll stay as long as you need, Ethan replied, settling back in the chair without releasing her hand. Claire's eyes drifted closed, and for the first time in months, she let herself surrender to sleep without fear. She woke to afternoon sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of real food, not hospital cafeteria meals, but something from outside. Ethan sat in the same chair, now reading something on his tablet, a takeout bag on the bedside table. You stayed, Claire said, her voice rough from sleep. Ethan looked up, smiling slightly. I said I would. How do you feel? Like I slept for a week. Claire checked the clock. It had only been 6 hours, but they were the deepest 6 hours of rest she'd had in recent memory. Is that food? Thai curry from that place on Madison? I remembered you mentioned once that it was your favorite. Ethan pulled out containers. You need to eat. Your blood work showed significant nutritional deficiencies. Claire sat up slowly, accepting the food. You remembered an offhand comment I made months ago about Thai food. I remember everything you say, Ethan replied, then seemed to catch himself. I mean, I pay attention to my staff. It's part of being a good chief of surgery. But the slight color in his cheek suggested it was more than professional attention, and Claire felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Dangerous, that warmth. She couldn't afford to feel things for Ethan Cross, not when her entire existence was built on lies and could collapse at any moment. Ethan, about what you said earlier, Claire began carefully, about Claire Foster being more impressive than Vivian Ashford. You don't really know either of them. You know a version of me I've carefully constructed. Do I? Ethan set down his own food, giving her his full attention, because the woman I've observed doesn't seem constructed. The way you advocate for patients, the way you mentor new nurses, the way you stayed with Mrs. Patterson last month when she was dying and her family couldn't get here in time. That wasn't performance, Claire, that was character. Maybe I was performing being a good person to convince myself I am one, Claire argued. Maybe Vivian Ashford was exactly the shallow, selfish person her parents raised her to be. And Claire Foster is just an elaborate fantasy. Is that what you really believe? Ethan asked gently. Claire looked down at her hands. I don't know what I believe anymore. I've been running for so long, I've forgotten what I was running toward, just away from Vincent. Away from my parents, away from being a commodity instead of a person. Her voice broke. What if I gave up billions of dollars and destroyed my family just to end up alone and exhausted and still terrified? You're not alone right now, Ethan pointed out. Because you're my doctor, and you have to be here, Claire said. I'm not your doctor, Ethan corrected. I'm the chief of surgery. Any attending could manage your care. I'm here because I want to be, because... He stopped, seeming to weigh his words carefully. Because I've been trying to find an excuse to talk to you outside of professional contexts for 2 years, and this is admittedly not the way I envisioned it happening. But I'm not wasting the opportunity, Claire's breath caught. What? You really didn't notice? Ethan's smile was self-deprecating. I thought I was being obvious, the way I always seem to be on the cardiac floor during your shifts, the number of consultations I've requested with your patients specifically, the fact that I know your favorite Thai restaurant and how you take your coffee. I thought you were just being thorough, Claire whispered. I'm always thorough, Ethan agreed. But I don't memorize other nurses' coffee preferences, just yours. He leaned forward, his expression serious. Claire, I understand if this is terrible timing. You're dealing with enough without me adding complications. But I need you to know, what I feel for you isn't pity or professional obligation. It's genuine interest in the remarkable woman you are, regardless of which name you use. Ethan, you can't want to be involved with this mess, Claire protested. My life is a disaster. I'm legally dead, possibly wanted for fraud, being hunted by a crime family, and I just had a breakdown in the middle of a hospital corridor. That's not relationship material. You're also brilliant, compassionate, dedicated, and brave enough to walk away from everything to live authentically, Ethan countered. That's exactly relationship material, Claire. You're not defined by your circumstances. You're defined by how you've handled them, Claire wanted to argue. But exhaustion and emotion were overwhelming her defenses. What if they find me? What if being around me puts you in danger? Then we'll deal with it, Ethan said simply. Together, I'm not a powerless civilian, Claire. I have resources, connections, and a rather intimidating legal team, plus... His smile turned slightly wry. I'm the chief of surgery at one of Seattle's premier hospitals. I'm not without influence. This isn't your fight, Claire insisted. It became my fight the moment you collapsed in my hospital, Ethan replied. The moment I read your file and understood what you'd survived. The moment... He paused. The moment I realized I cared more about protecting you than protecting professional boundaries. Before Claire could respond, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. She'd turned it to silent during her shift, and notifications had been piling up. Most were from Jessica and other concerned co-workers, but one message from an unknown number made her blood run cold. Vivian, darling, heard you had a little accident at work. How careless. We should talk about your health and your future. But Claire's hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. Ethan caught it, read the message, and his expression went hard. Vincent, Claire whispered. He knows I'm alive. He knows where I am. He knows. Panic was rising, making it hard to breathe. Hey, look at me, Ethan commanded, his hands on her shoulders, grounding her. Breathe, Claire. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, with me. Claire tried to follow his count, tried to focus on his steady presence instead of the terror flooding her system. How did he find me? I've been so careful. We'll figure that out, Ethan said, already pulling out his own phone. But right. We're implementing security protocols. I'm calling hospital security. And I'm having a friend at Seattle PD come up. We're documenting this threat, and we're making sure you're protected. The police can't help, Claire said desperately. Vincent owns half the politicians on the East Coast. He has connections everywhere. He doesn't have connections to everyone, Ethan interrupted. And he's just made a direct threat via text message, which is prosecutable regardless of his connections. Claire, you have agency here, you have options. This isn't 3 years ago when you were isolated and without resources. You have me, you have this hospital, and you have the law on your side. The law didn't help me before, Claire said bitterly. Because you were alone and your family was actively working against you, Ethan replied. That's not the situation now. Now you have an ally with resources and willingness to fight. Let me help you, Claire, please. Over the next hour, Ethan orchestrated what felt like a military operation. Hospital security was briefed without revealing Claire's full identity. Just that she was under protective custody due to credible threats. Detective Sarah Chen from Seattle PD arrived, took statements, and immediately began investigating the unknown number. This text is prosecutable, Detective Chen said, showing them her notes. Direct contact after being told to cease contact. Veiled threats about health and future. This meets the threshold for harassment and intimidation. I'm opening an investigation immediately. But Vincent Russo has resources, Claire protested. He can make this disappear. Maybe on the East Coast, Detective Chen interrupted. But Seattle PD doesn't have the same entanglements. We take threats seriously here regardless of who's making them. Plus, threatening someone in a hospital where there are multiple witnesses and security footage, that's sloppy, almost like he wants to intimidate you into running instead of actually confronting you directly. Claire hadn't considered that angle. I think he's bluffing. I think he's testing you, Detective Chen said, seeing if you'll disappear again, which would be easier for him than actually tracking you down. Men like Vincent Russo rely on fear and control. If you stand your ground, document everything, and show you have support, he loses his primary weapon. Standing my ground means potentially revealing I'm alive to my family. To the media, to everyone, Claire said. Not necessarily, Ethan interjected. We can handle this quietly. Restraining order filed under Claire Foster. Documentation of threats without revealing your previous identity. Unless Vincent wants to publicly admit he's harassing a dead woman, he has to play along with your new identity too. Claire looked between them. Ethan's determined expression. Detective Chen's professional confidence for 3 years. She'd handled everything alone. Convinced that asking for help meant vulnerability, meant weakness, meant eventual betrayal. But maybe, whispered a small voice, maybe she'd been wrong about that. Okay, Claire said quietly. Okay, I'll stand my ground. But I need to know. If this goes bad, if Vincent escalates, if my family gets involved, you'll both walk away, right? You won't risk yourselves for me. Not a chance, Ethan said immediately. Absolutely not, Detective Chen agreed. Miss Foster, you're a victim of sustained harassment and threats. Protecting you is literally my job, and Dr. Cross here seems personally invested in your safety, so good luck convincing him to back off. Ethan didn't deny it, just met Claire's eyes with steady certainty. I'm not walking away, Claire. Get used to that. After Detective Chen left with promises to follow up within 24 hours, Claire found herself alone with Ethan again. The sun was setting, painting the room in orange and gold. You should go home, Claire said. You've been here all day. You must have other responsibilities. I cleared my schedule, Ethan replied. And I'm not leaving you alone right now, not when Vincent just made contact. Ethan, you can't put your life on hold for me. I'm not putting my life on hold, Ethan interrupted gently. I'm choosing to spend my time with someone who matters to me. There's a difference. He moved closer, sitting on the edge of her bed. Claire, I need you to understand something. I'm not helping you out of pity or obligation or some savior complex. I'm helping you because I see you, the real you, brave and determined and trying so hard to be good despite everything you've been through, and I want to be part of your life, if you'll let me. Not as your doctor or your protector, but as... He paused, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen, as someone who cares about you deeply and wants to see where this goes. This is insane, Claire whispered. You barely know me. The real me, I mean, not the constructed version. I know you stayed with Mrs. Patterson when she was dying because you didn't want her to be alone, Ethan said. I know you cry during surgery documentaries because you feel the victories and losses so personally. I know you volunteer at the free clinic on your days off, even though you're exhausted from hospital shifts. I know you're terrified of thunderstorms but won't admit it. I know you read mystery novels during your lunch breaks, and that you hum when you think no one's listening. I know... His voice softened. I know you, Claire. Maybe not every detail of your past, but I know your character, and that's what matters. Claire felt tears burning. What if I'm not as good as you think I am? What if disappointing you is worse than being alone? Then we'll deal with that together too, Ethan said, taking her hand. Claire, I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for honesty, for the chance to know you without the walls you've built, for the possibility of something real. Even if it's complicated and messy and sometimes scary. It's going to be all those things, Claire warned. Good, Ethan replied, his smile gentle. I'm allergic to simple and I'm very patient, so take your time deciding what you want. I'll be here. Claire looked at their joined hands, at Ethan's steady gaze. At the future she'd been too afraid to imagine. Maybe standing her ground meant more than just refusing to run from Vincent. Maybe it meant finally allowing herself to move towards something, instead of just away from everything. I want to try, she whispered. I want to believe this could work, but Ethan, I'm terrified of Vincent, of disappointing you, of losing everything again. Then be terrified with me beside you, Ethan said simply. Fear is easier to handle when you're not alone. And sitting there in the golden sunset light, Claire let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe he was right. Claire was discharged after 48 hours with strict instructions to take a week off work. Ethan had arranged for her to stay in a secure corporate apartment building owned by the hospital's parent company. Better security than her current place, and most importantly, an address Vincent didn't know. Vincent. I feel like I'm in witness protection, Claire said as Ethan helped her settle into the furnished one-bedroom. It was nicer than anywhere she'd lived as Claire Foster, with floor-to-ceiling windows and modern amenities that reminded her uncomfortably of her old life. You essentially are, Ethan replied. Setting down her bag, Detective Chen confirmed that Vincent's number was traced to a burner phone purchased in Boston 3 days ago. He's likely still on the East Coast, testing your response. The restraining order was filed this morning under Claire Foster's name. If he contacts you again, it's an immediate arrestable offense. And if he ignores it like Wealthy, connected men usually do, Claire asked, old cynicism surfacing. Then we escalate, Ethan said firmly. Claire, I need you to trust the process. I know the system failed you before, but… The system didn't fail me, Claire interrupted quietly. My family did. The system was working exactly as designed to protect the wealthy and powerful. Vincent's family, my family, they were the system. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then maybe it's time to use that system against them. You're not powerless anymore, Claire. You have documentation, witnesses, and legal standing. Vincent threatening you now after you've built this life. That's evidence of ongoing harassment that even his connections can't completely erase. Claire wanted to believe him. But 3 years of paranoia didn't evaporate overnight. What if coming forward as Vivian destroys Claire? What if I have to choose between prosecuting Vincent and maintaining my new identity? We'll cross that bridge if we come to it, Ethan said. But Claire, there might come a point where hiding becomes more dangerous than being seen. Where the energy you spend looking over your shoulder could be better used actually living. Easy for you to say, Claire replied, then immediately regretted the sharpness in her tone. I'm sorry, that wasn't fair. You've been nothing but supportive. It's not easy for me to say, Ethan corrected gently, because I understand what I'm asking you to risk, but I've also watched you exhaust yourself trying to be invisible, and I think you're ready to stop running, even if you don't know it yet. Before Claire could respond, her phone rang. Sarah, her friend who'd helped stage her death, the only person from her old life who knew the truth. I need to take this, Claire said, and Ethan nodded, moving to the kitchen to give her privacy. Sarah, Claire answered. Vivian, God, Claire, whatever you're calling yourself, are you okay? Sarah's voice was frantic. Vincent called me. Actually called me on my personal cell, which I've changed twice since you left. He's looking for you. He knows you're alive. Claire's blood ran cold. Well, what did you tell him? Nothing. I told him he was crazy, that you died 3 years ago, that I was at your funeral. But Viv, Claire, he didn't believe me. He said he had proof you were alive and working as a nurse in Seattle. How would he know that? How did he find you? Claire's mind raced. I don't know. I've been so careful. Your nursing license, Sarah said suddenly. Did you take the boards under your real name? Even if you're working under Claire Foster, license examinations require legal identification. If Vincent has someone checking professional licensing databases… Claire's stomach dropped. She had taken her boards under Vivian Ashford, using her sealed records before dying. The license had been issued posthumously, technically, but the records existed in state databases if Vincent had the right connections in the medical licensing board. He found me through my nursing credentials, Claire said, the realization settling like lead. 3 years of hiding and my own professional qualifications exposed me. Ethan had returned at her tone, his expression concerned. Claire put the phone on speaker. Sarah, this is Dr. Ethan Cross. He paused. I'm helping Claire with this situation. If Vincent contacted you, that's witness intimidation. We need to document it. Who's we? Sarah asked suspiciously. Claire, who is this person? How much does he know? Everything, Claire admitted. He knows about Vivian, about Vincent, about all of it. And Sarah. He's helping, really helping, not just saying the right things. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Is he trustworthy? I think so, Claire said, looking at Ethan. I hope so. I am, Ethan said firmly. And I need you to contact Seattle PD, Detective Sarah Chen specifically. Tell her everything Vincent said to you. It establishes a pattern of harassment across state lines, which makes this a federal issue. Federal, Claire's head was spinning. Interstate stalking and harassment fall under federal jurisdiction, Ethan explained. If Vincent is in Boston contacting people in Seattle to locate you, that's a federal crime. The FBI takes those cases seriously. The FBI, Claire repeated, feeling surreal. This is escalating so fast. Because Vincent is getting desperate, Ethan said. He's making mistakes. Contacting Sarah, texting you directly, being sloppy about covering his tracks. Men like him are used to intimidation working. When it doesn't, they get aggressive and careless. After Sarah promised to contact Detective Chen, Claire ended the call and sank onto the couch. Overwhelmed, "I thought I could just be Claire Foster forever," she whispered. "I thought if I worked hard enough, stayed invisible enough, eventually Vivian Ashford would just fade away, that I could outrun my past." "You can't outrun your past," Ethan said, sitting beside her. "But you can integrate it. Own it. Use it. Vivian Ashford's resourcefulness, her determination to escape. Those traits didn't disappear when you became Claire. They're part of who you are." "Vivian was weak," Claire argued. "She let her parents control her for 25 years. "Vivian survived," Ethan interrupted. "In an impossible situation with no support. She found a way out. That's not weakness, Claire. That's incredible strength. You don't give yourself enough credit for what you accomplished." Claire looked at him. This man who'd inserted himself into her crisis without hesitation, who looked at her complicated, messy life and saw worth protecting. "Why do you have so much faith in me?" "Because I see what you can't," Ethan said simply. "I see someone remarkable who's spent 3 years trying to be ordinary, someone brilliant who's been hiding her light, someone—" His voice softened. "Someone I'd very much like to know completely without the fear and hiding." "What if knowing me completely is disappointing?" Claire asked. "What if it's extraordinary?" Ethan countered. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Claire, I'm not afraid of your past. I'm not intimidated by your family or Vincent or any of it. I'm only afraid of you running again before we figure out what this is between us." "This is insane," Claire whispered. But she was leaning into his touch. "You've known my real identity for 3 days." "I've known you for 2 years," Ethan replied. The name didn't matter. The person did. Before Claire could second-guess herself, she closed the distance and kissed him. It was tentative at first, a question more than a statement. But when Ethan responded, his hand cupping her face, his other arm pulling her closer, the kiss deepened into something that felt like both answer and promise. When they finally pulled apart, Claire was breathless. "That was long overdue," Ethan finished, smiling. "I've wanted to do that since approximately your 2nd week at Mercy General. Why didn't you?" "Professional boundaries, the power dynamic of me being chief of surgery, the fact that you seemed determined to keep everyone at arm's length." Ethan's thumb traced her cheekbone. "But Claire, those boundaries feel less important now. What feels important is making sure you're safe and happy, and finally able to live without fear." "I don't know how to do that," Claire admitted. "I've been afraid for so long, I don't remember what it feels like to just exist without constantly checking over my shoulder." "Then we'll figure it out together," Ethan said, starting with addressing Vincent directly instead of hiding from him. Claire pulled back slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean we call his bluff," Ethan said. "Vincent is operating on the assumption that you're isolated and scared. What if you're not? What if you have resources, legal representation, and a very public platform to expose his harassment?" "You want me to go public?" Claire's voice rose. "Ethan, that would mean revealing I'm alive, my family. The media, everyone would know you escaped an arranged marriage to a criminal," Ethan finished. "That you built a respectable life as a nurse, that you're a survivor, not a spoiled heiress who faked her death for attention. The narrative matters, Claire, right now. Vincent controls it because you're hidden. What if you controlled it instead?" Claire's mind raced through the implications. Going public meant losing Claire Foster's anonymity, but it also meant Vincent couldn't threaten her with exposure. There'd be nothing left to expose. It meant her family couldn't quietly disappear her again. It meant living openly instead of in constant fear. "I'd lose my job," Claire said. "The hospital can't have a nurse who's been working under false pretenses." "You haven't been working under false pretenses," Ethan interrupted. "Claire Foster is your legal name. You changed it properly through the courts 3 years ago. Your nursing credentials are legitimate. The only thing you concealed was your previous identity, which you had valid safety reasons for doing. As chief of surgery, I can confirm your employment is not in jeopardy. You'd do that, risk your professional reputation, vouching for me, in a heartbeat," Ethan said without hesitation. "Claire, you're an exceptional nurse. Your work speaks for itself. The fact that you're also Vivian Ashford doesn't change your qualifications or dedication. If anything, it makes your accomplishments more impressive." Claire looked at him, at the certainty in his expression, and felt something shift inside her. For 3 years, she'd been running from Vivian Ashford, trying to erase her, hide her, pretend she never existed. But maybe Ethan was right. Maybe the answer wasn't erasure, but integration, owning both identities, Vivian's strength and Claire's compassion, Vivian's resources and Claire's humility. "If I do this," Claire said slowly, "if I go public, I'd need help, legal representation, PR management, protection from media circus. I can't afford that kind of support." "Actually, you can," Ethan said gently. "Claire, Vivian Ashford has a trust fund worth approximately $300 million. It was established by your grandmother, completely separate from your parents' control. You were supposed to gain access at 30. You turned 30 last year." Claire stared at him. "How do you know that?" "I may have done some research," Ethan admitted. "Basic background checking to understand the situation. The trust is legally yours, Claire. Your parents can't touch it. Vincent can't claim it. It's your inheritance from a grandmother who, according to records, fought your parents about the arranged marriage before she died." "Grandmother Vivian," Claire whispered. "I was named after her. She tried to help me. But she died before I turned 18. Tears burned her eyes. She left me money." "She left you independence," Ethan corrected, "the ability to live life on your terms. That trust has been sitting dormant for 3 years because everyone thought you were dead. But you're not dead, Claire, you're alive. And you have the resources to fight back." Claire felt something cracking open inside her. 3 years of fear and scarcity and making herself small. "I forgot about the trust. It was always just theoretical, something in the distant future. I never thought I'd actually be able to access it." "Well, you can," Ethan said. "And with those resources, you can hire the best legal team, the best security, the best management. You can tell your story before Vincent tells his version. You can take control of the narrative." "This is terrifying," Claire admitted. "I know," Ethan replied, "but you're not doing it alone. I'll be right beside you every step." Over the next week, Claire made decisions that both terrified and empowered her. With Ethan's help, she contacted attorneys who specialized in both criminal harassment cases and estate law. The trust fund was verified. $300 million that her grandmother had carefully protected from her parents' control. "Your grandmother was a smart woman," the estate attorney said. "She structured this trust to be completely independent. Your parents can't contest it, can't access it, can't even know about it unless you choose to tell them." With resources came options. Claire hired a PR firm that specialized in crisis management. Together they crafted a statement that told her story. Vivian Ashford, heiress who escaped an arranged marriage to organized crime, who built a new life as a cardiac nurse, who was now being stalked by the man she'd fled. "We'll release this through major news outlets simultaneously," the PR manager explained, "along with documentation of Vincent's harassment, the restraining order and testimonials about your work at Mercy General. We control the narrative from the start." "What about my family?" Claire asked. "They'll see this. They'll know I've been alive." "They'll know you escaped and thrived," the PR manager corrected. "They'll know their daughter chose to be a nurse over being a billionaire's wife. That's a powerful story, Miss Ashford. One that makes you sympathetic and them look exactly like what they are. Parents who sold their daughter." The story broke on a Tuesday morning. By noon, it was national news. Billionaire heiress faked death to escape arranged marriage, now works as nurse. The coverage was overwhelmingly sympathetic. Claire's nursing colleagues gave interviews praising her work. Detective Chen confirmed the ongoing investigation into Vincent's harassment. And Ethan provided a statement as chief of surgery vouching for her character and credentials. Claire watched the coverage from Ethan's apartment. She'd moved in temporarily for security, though they both knew it was becoming more than temporary. "Your parents released a statement," Ethan said, reading his phone. "They're overjoyed. You're alive and want to reconcile." Very carefully worded to make them look like concerned parents instead of people who sold you to a criminal. "Let them spin it however they want," Claire said, feeling surprisingly calm. "I know the truth, so does everyone who matters." Her phone rang. A number she recognized from 3 years ago. Her mother, Claire, answered on speaker. "Hello, Catherine." "Vivian." Her mother's voice was controlled, icy. "This publicity stunt is unacceptable. You're making the family look like exactly what you are," Claire interrupted. Parents who arranged their daughter's marriage to a mob boss to clear gambling debts. I think the truth makes you look like that, not my stunt. You have embarrassed us beyond repair, Catherine hissed. Your father is humiliated, our social standing. I don't care about your social standing, Claire said firmly. I care about living my life without fear, something you never gave me the opportunity to do. If you think you can access your trust without consequences. Catherine started. I already have, Claire interrupted. Grandmother Vivian made sure you couldn't touch it. She knew exactly what you were. I just wish I'd understood sooner. She ended the call, feeling lighter than she had in years. That felt good, Claire admitted to Ethan. That looked good, Ethan replied, pulling her close. I'm proud of you, for finally standing up to my mother, for choosing to live loudly instead of hiding quietly, Ethan said, for trusting that being seen was safer than staying invisible. The legal proceedings against Vincent moved quickly once everything was public. With the media attention, the FBI got involved. Vincent's harassment across state lines, combined with his organized crime connections, made this a high-priority case. Within a month, he was arrested on multiple federal charges. It'll take time to go to trial, Detective Chen explained during a follow-up meeting. But with your testimony, Sarah's testimony, and the documented threats, the case is solid. Vincent Russo isn't going to be able to intimidate his way out of federal charges. 6 months later, Claire stood in Mercy General's cafeteria during her lunch break, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Her colleagues knew her full story now. Some had questions. Most were just impressed that she'd walked away from billions to be a nurse. So when are you going to use that trust fund money to stop working double shifts? Jessica teased. Never, Claire replied. I like working. I like being Claire Foster, cardiac nurse. That part of me is real, regardless of the Vivian Ashford money. Ethan appeared, stealing a piece of her sandwich. Coffee after shift. Actually, Claire said, smiling, I was thinking dinner at that restaurant where you first told me you'd been interested for 2 years. That's a date restaurant, Ethan pointed out. I know, Claire replied. That's the point. Ethan's smile was brilliant. 7 o'clock, I'll pick you up. I'll be the one who's legally alive now and no longer hiding her identity, Claire teased. You'll be the one I've been waiting to take to dinner for 2.5 years, Ethan corrected. The name didn't matter. The person did. As Claire watched him walk away, she thought about the elevator where she'd collapsed 6 months ago, how that moment of vulnerability had led to everything else, the revelation, the choice to fight instead of flee, the decision to live openly instead of hiding. She thought about Vivian Ashford, the scared heiress who'd faked her death to escape, and Claire Foster, the dedicated nurse who'd built a life worth living. They weren't separate people, she realized. They'd never been. They were both her, the strength and the compassion, the privilege and the humility, the fear and the courage, and now finally she could be both without apology. Claire, a new patient's family member, approached. The nurse at the desk said you were the best at explaining complicated medical terms. Do you have a minute? Of course, Claire replied, following them toward the cardiac wing. What do you need to understand? As she walked through the hospital corridors, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, finally whole, Claire felt something she hadn't felt in years, not just safety, not just relief, but joy. The pure, uncomplicated joy of being exactly who she was meant to be, and that, she thought, was worth more than any trust fund, any title, any amount of money her family had ever possessed. She was Claire Foster and Vivian Ashford. She was a nurse and an heiress. She was a survivor and a woman in love. And she was, finally, completely free.